By far the most famous team in JMR and the best is the Savage Speeders. Their accomplishments speak for themselves. However, after 2 below-average finishes, some began to question whether they were the same team that they once were. And while the Speeders would largely silence them with a 4th place running in 2022, it would be the following season where the Speeders would show any and all doubt that they were still the greatest team ever to walk the marble earth. The Savage Speeders made a massive gamble in Marbula 1 Season 4 by replacing longtime Marbula 1 racer Rapidly with Swifty. And Swifty was brilliant in his debut. However, it wouldn't be long before the Speeders ran into their first competitor for the championship. And it would be a very, very familiar face. The Hazers had long been an elite Marbula 1 team, or at least until Season 3. They finished 17th out of 20 teams. And after this, they decided to do a complete overhaul of their roster, replacing both Hazy and Smoggy with Cloudy and Misty, respectively. Many, including myself, questioned this decision, but the Hazers proved that they knew what they were doing right out the gate.
Hazers. Speedy, Cloudy, 2 lengths apart. Heading into this near hairpin. In front of the grandstands, Cloudy goes around the outside, and an impact there does the same thing to Speedy, which sends that marble going backward. Perfectly timed, Cloudy will win the opening Grand Prix and their first ever Marbula 1 race.
Speedy had just been outdone by a marble in their first Marbula 1 start. Still, this was a good race, and the Speeders would follow that up with a solid 7th place at the O-Raceway. However, it would be in this O-Raceway race where the Speeders would run into their next challenger. And while the Hazers were more than a familiar face, this team was anything but. The Cobalt had long been an elite Marbula 1 team, and in this season, they would be spearheaded by Royal. I've already made a deep dive into the Royal versus Speedy debates, and in Grand Prix 3 of the season, the two would have the best duel of the season, and arguably the best ever.
This is the final lap. Speedy versus Royal. Will Misty have anything to say about it? They're opting for different lines, and now they go defensive through the S's. Speedy over Royal. Very slow and deliberate here. Both of these marbles know that there are passing opportunities coming up. Royal to the outside, back to the inside. Has the lead through the hairpin and may have timed it perfectly. Royal is going to make it 2 straight in Marbula 1.
For the second race in a row, Speedy had been dominant and yet faltered in the last lap. This win by Royal propelled the Cobalts to their first lead in Marbula 1 team history. Thankfully for the Speeders, they would take it the very next race and would have a 15-point advantage over the Hazers after the 5th race. However, the next race could not have gone any worse. Not only did Swifty falter, the Hazers won, and they put themselves in the lead with a 7-point cushion over the Speeders. And it would be in this race where we would see the last competitor for the championship begin to make some noise. Team Primary had long been okay. Not great, but not bad. They had been driven by one marble, and the other marble was terrible. In Season 1, it was Prim. In Season 3, it was Arab. And after this, Prim, although being a legend to the sport, was taken out and replaced with Rima. And like the Hazers, Rima was quick to prove that Team Primary was correct in their decision. And this would give Team Primary by far the best season in franchise history. And although coming in as long shots, by the end of the year, this team had showed that they were potentially the biggest threat to the Speeders. Team Primary started off just alright, but they were quick to climb the ranks And after the 6th race of the season, they were in 4th place, just 5 points back of a provisional podium spot. This was the first time that the eventual top 4 of the season would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And it would remain that way for mostly the rest of the season. The GP7 didn't really change much. The top 4 teams stayed 1, 2, 3, 4. Although actually, Team Momo did pass primary for 4th place. But to keep things simple, let's just say that these 4 were still 1, 2, 3, 4. The 8th race was more or less a repeat of the 7th. All 4 teams did good, but not great, and not near enough to make any jumps. But the next race would be a completely different story. The Hazers completely fell apart and let the Speeders take the lead, or at least tie for it. You might be wondering why 2nd place is empty. Well, that's because the Hazers faltering and the Cobalt's doing bad as well opened the door wide open for Team Primary, and they busted through. Arup not only won, but got fastest lap as well, and Team Primary slid into 2nd place. A 3-way tie. The O'Rangers, Team Momo, and the Cobalt, who had fallen all the way down to 6th overall, were still in contention. But they need a miracle, and spoiler alert, they did not get it. For simplicity's sake, the championship battle was down to 3 competitors. Rima from the Team Primary, Misty from the Hazers, and the one and only Speedy for the Savage Speeders. Qualifying could not have gone better for the Speeders. Rima and Misty did horrible, and Speedy was in a top 5 position. Speedy just needed a half-decent race, it seemed, and the Savage Speeders would be just fine. And while Speedy would look like for the majority of the race that he had the championship under lockdown, as the race progressed, Rima began to make some serious noise. And at their closest, Rima was just 2 positions back. After briefly looking like they were out of it, Team Primary was right back in the championship running. However, it was not meant to be.
But there is still honor to be had. Bumble cruises by in 2nd. There's Clementon and there's Speedy. Mallard back in 5th. One last time through the drop as Speedy gets by into 3rd. Redeye comes through and wins the race here at Casino Square. Bumble comes through in 2nd. Speedy not good enough in 3rd. And Royals...
After a surprisingly long 3-year championship drought, the Savage Speeders were back on top. They have now proved beyond any at all doubt that they still got it. Thank you for watching.